The morning sky blazed orange and pink as Tom Miller stepped onto his porch, coffee mug in hand. His farmland stretched before him, corn stalks swaying in the gentle breeze. At 42, he had spent most of his life working this land in rural Ohio, far from the bustling cities that dominated the news. That morning in July 2040 seemed like any other until Tom noticed something odd. His old radio crackled with emergency broadcasts, interrupting the usual farming reports. Frowning, he turned up the volume. "This is not a drill," the announcer's voice trembled. "Unknown objects have entered Earth's atmosphere. Military forces are mobilizing worldwide." Tom nearly dropped his mug. He rushed inside, flipped on the television, and stared in disbelief at the footage. Massive dark ships, each the size of a small city, hovered over major population centers around the globe. New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, all had visitors from beyond the stars. "They're saying it's aliens," his neighbor Bill called, running across the field between their properties. "Real aliens." The world held its breath. For 3 days, the ship simply hung in the sky, silent and motionless. World leaders attempted communication while military forces gathered quietly. The president addressed the nation, urging calm while admitting they had no idea what these visitors wanted. On the 4th day, humanity got its answer. Tom was harvesting corn when the distant rumble began. Looking toward Columbus, 60 miles away, he saw a flash brighter than the sun. The shock wave knocked him flat. When he struggled to his feet, a massive mushroom cloud rose where the city had been. The attack wasn't limited to Columbus. Around the world, cities burned as the ships unleashed weapons beyond human understanding. Millions died in the first hour. "This is General Parker," a new voice replaced the terrified news anchors on emergency broadcasts. "All civilians seek shelter. This is not a surrender. We are fighting back." Fighter jets screamed overhead, heading toward Columbus. Tom watched as they approached the alien ship. Missiles launched, but seemed to dissolve before impact. The ship barely noticed, continuing its systematic destruction. That night, as Tom huddled in his basement with Bill and other neighbors, they felt the ground shake. Something had crashed in the woods near Tom's farm. "We should check it out," said Jim, Bill's teenage son. "That's military business," Tom replied, but curiosity gnawed at him too. By morning, with no military in sight and the alien ships seemingly focused on urban areas, Tom and Jim cautiously approached the crash site. Smoke still rose from a deep gouge in the earth. It wasn't one of the massive ships, but rather a smaller craft, perhaps the size of a bus. "Stay back," Tom warned, but Jim was already sliding down toward the wreckage. The craft's hull had split open, revealing strange technology inside. Lights still blinked on panels covered in symbols unlike any human language. And there, slumped in what must have been the pilot's seat, was a being. Gray-skinned, with a large head and spindly limbs, it looked nothing like the friendly aliens from movies. Its large, black eyes blinked weakly as it noticed the humans. "It's alive," Jim whispered. The creature made a series of clicking sounds and reached toward a device on its wrist. Tom, acting on instinct, grabbed the alien's arm. The being struggled weakly. "It's hurt," Tom realized. Despite everything, he couldn't watch any creature suffer. "Help me get it out." They carried the alien to Tom's barn, hiding it under hay when military helicopters finally appeared, circling the crash site. An officer named Jack, with stern eyes and a tight grip on his rifle, questioned Tom about the crash. "Saw it go down," Tom said truthfully. "Nothing left but scrap metal." After the military left with pieces of the craft, Tom returned to the barn. The alien was conscious, watching him with those unsettling black eyes. "You understand me?" Tom asked, feeling foolish. The creature raised its wrist device and pressed something. A mechanical voice emerged. "Learn." Your speech. Tom backed away, stunned. Why are you attacking us? The alien's device crackled. Resources. Need. Survival. That night, as fires burned on the horizon and humanity faced its darkest hour, Tom made a decision. He would learn everything he could from this visitor. Knowledge might be Earth's only hope. The war had just begun. 3 months after the first attack, Earth was a changed planet. Major cities lay in ruins, governments operated from hidden bunkers, and half the world's population was either dead or missing. Yet humanity fought on. Tom's farm had transformed from a peaceful homestead to a military research outpost. The crashed alien scout ship had provided valuable intelligence, and the captured Grey, which Tom had named Visitor, was proving to be an unexpected source of information. "They're calling these meetings again," Dr. Lisa Parks said, entering the barn that now served as their lab. Her once pristine lab coat was stained and wrinkled, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. As one of the few surviving xenobiologists, she'd been helicoptered to Tom's farm within days of the military discovering his secret. Tom looked up from the alien device he was examining. "What's Visitor saying today?" Lisa sighed. "The translation is getting better. They're a hive mind, Tom. Individual Greys have limited autonomy, but they're all connected to some central consciousness. Visitor was a scout, disconnected from the hive when the ship crashed. That's why it's willing to communicate." Outside, military vehicles rumbled past. Captain Jack Reed, now field promoted to major, had established a defensive perimeter around the farm. His weathered face appeared at the doorway. "Any progress?" he asked, the weeks of little sleep evident in his voice. "Some," Lisa replied. "The Greys came from a dying solar system. They've been nomadic for centuries, harvesting resources from inhabited planets. Water, minerals, certain atmospheric gases, and biological samples." "Biological samples," Jack repeated grimly. "You mean us?" Tom crossed to the back of the barn where Visitor was kept in a reinforced glass enclosure. The alien's wounds had healed, and it watched them with those unnerving black eyes. "Why Earth?" Tom asked through the translation device they'd modified from Visitor's wrist tech. The mechanical voice replied, "Perfect. Balance. Elements. Rare." Lisa joined Tom. "Their technology requires specific mineral combinations that are uncommon in the galaxy. Earth has everything they need. And they just take what they want," Jack said bitterly. "No negotiation, no sharing. Efficiency," Visitor's translator crackled. "Quick. Extraction. Move on." In the months since first contact, Tom had learned to read subtle changes in Visitor's posture. The slight tilt of its head now suggested curiosity. "Humans. Different," Visitor continued. "Fight back. Unexpected." "You're damn right we fight back," Jack said. A soldier burst into the barn. "Sir." Grey patrol approaching from the east. Jack was instantly alert. "How many?" "Small group, sir. 3 of their hover crafts." "They might be looking for their lost scout," Lisa suggested. Jack grabbed his rifle. "Or they detected our research." "Tom, stay with the alien." "Lisa, secure the data. We'll handle this." Through the barn window, Tom watched Jack lead his team into defensive positions. The soldiers carried the new electromagnetic pulse rifles that disrupted Grey technology, a direct result of studying the crashed scout ship. The alien hover crafts appeared over the tree-line, silent and menacing. They resembled stingrays, gliding through air instead of water. The battle was brief but intense. The first EMP blast caught the lead craft, sending it spiraling to the ground. The others returned fire, green energy beams cutting through a farmhouse. Jack's team stayed mobile, firing from multiple positions. Inside the barn, Visitor had pressed against the glass, watching intently. "You're kind. We'll lose," the translation device said. Tom turned to the alien. "Why do you say that?" "More coming. Many more." After the remaining gray crafts retreated, Lisa rushed into the barn with a laptop. "We intercepted a transmission during the fight. I've been trying to decode it." Tom watched the screen as strange symbols scrolled past. "What does it say?" Lisa's face paled. "If I'm reading this correctly, a much larger fleet is headed for Earth. They've called for reinforcements." That evening, as Jack's team salvaged technology from the downed gray craft, Tom sat alone with Visitor. "Your people will kill us all," Tom said. The alien studied him for a long moment before responding. "Not if you learn." "Learn what?" "Our weakness." Tom leaned closer to the glass. "Why would you tell us that?" The gray's large head tilted again. "Disconnected from Hive. Thinking differently now." For the first time since the invasion began, Tom felt a flicker of hope. If they could understand how the hive mind worked, they might find a way to disrupt it. Humanity needed every advantage it could get before the reinforcements arrived. The real war was just beginning. 6 months into the war, humanity had moved beyond mere survival to organized resistance. The knowledge gained from Visitor had spread through underground networks, connecting pockets of fighters worldwide. Tom stood on a hilltop overlooking what had once been downtown Detroit. Now it served as a gray processing facility, where massive machines extracted minerals from the rubble. 3 gray ships hovered above, protecting the operation. "Ready?" Major Jack Reed asked, binoculars trained on the alien facility. Tom nodded. "Lisa's weapons are in position." The past months had hardened Tom. His farmer's hands now carried calluses from weapons rather than tools. He'd traveled across the country, helping resistance cells understand gray technology and tactics. "All teams report ready," the radio at Jack's hip crackled. "Execute," Jack ordered. Silence followed, then a low hum built across the landscape. Hidden EMP generators activated simultaneously, creating an electromagnetic web that Lisa had designed based on Visitor's information. The effect was immediate. The gray ships wobbled in the air, their systems disrupted. 2 crashed into each other before plummeting to the ground. The third managed to stabilize but flew erratically. "Phase 2, Jack commanded. From concealed positions, resistance fighters emerged, armed with retrofitted gray weapons. They moved with practiced precision, targeting the confused aliens who stumbled from the crashed ships. Tom led his own team toward the central facility. "Remember, we need that communication hub intact." The battle raged for hours. Gray reinforcements arrived but fell into carefully planned ambushes. For the first time, humans were not just surviving, they were winning. Inside the facility, Tom found what they sought: a crystalline structure pulsing with light. "This is it," he said into his radio. "Lisa, we've reached the communication hub." Lisa's voice came through clearly. "Good. Don't touch anything until I get there." When she arrived, her face was smudged with dirt but her eyes shone with excitement. The months of studying gray technology had made her the world's foremost expert. "This connects directly to their hive network," she explained, carefully attaching human devices to alien technology. "If we can access it without triggering alerts, we'll hear everything they're planning." The delicate operation took hours, but when Lisa finally stepped back, her smile told the story before her words did. "We're in," she said. The captured hub became humanity's most valuable intelligence asset. Through it, they learned that the gray reinforcement fleet was still 3 months away, and it was massive. "They're sending enough ships to strip mine the entire planet," Lisa reported during an emergency council meeting in their underground bunker. Representatives from surviving governments attended via secure video links. "Then we hit them before they arrive," Jack said. "We use what we've learned to take the fight to the ships already here." The plan was audacious: simultaneous attacks on Grey Command ships in every theater of war. Success would leave the incoming fleet leaderless and vulnerable. Tom's role was to lead the North American strike team. Using captured Grey Scout ships modified with human controls, they would infiltrate the massive mothership hovering over the ruins of Washington, D.C. The night before the mission, Tom visited Visitor, who had become something like an ally. "Tomorrow we attack your people's command ship," Tom said. Visitor's translator responded, "Not my people. Not anymore." The months disconnected from the hive had changed the alien. It had developed individual thought, even a name of its own choosing, Sol, after the star that warmed its new home. "If we capture their commander, can we negotiate peace?" Tom asked. "No negotiation. Only victory or defeat." At dawn, 30 captured and modified scout ships launched from hidden bases across the continent. Tom piloted one, his hands steady despite the stakes. "Remember," his voice came through the comm to all pilots, "we need to knock out their engines first, then communications. Stay in formation until we breach the hull." The mothership loomed ahead, a city-sized monstrosity of dark metal. Alarm klaxons blared as the Grey defenses detected the approaching scouts. "They've spotted us," Jack's voice reported from another scout. Evasive maneuvers. Energy beams lanced through the sky. 3 scout ships exploded instantly. The others scattered, executing the practice dodge patterns Lisa had calculated based on Grey weapon systems. Tom's ship took a glancing hit, systems flickering. "Keep going," he shouted. "We won't get another chance." They reached the mothership, landing on its surface like insects on a whale. Cutting tools burned through the hull, creating entry points for the strike teams. Inside, they faced desperate resistance. The Greys fought viciously, sensing the existential threat these humans posed. Tom's team pushed toward the ship's brain, the central command node. The fate of Earth depended on this mission, and failure was not an option. 1 year into the war, Earth had become a battlefield unlike any in human history. The successful raid on the Washington mothership had dealt a crippling blow to the Grey command structure, but the cost had been high. Half of Tom's strike team never returned. What they gained, however, changed everything. The captured command codes allowed humans to listen in on Grey communications across the planet. For the first time, they could anticipate attacks instead of merely reacting. Former enemies fighting side by side, Tom mused, watching Russian and American soldiers training together at the underground base in Montana. The massive natural caverns had been converted into humanity's largest resistance hub, housing over 10,000 people. Lisa approached, holding a tablet displaying Grey communication patterns. "The Chinese just took down another processing facility in Shanghai. That's 3 this week." Tom nodded. "And the European coalition?" "Holding their ground in what's left of Berlin." She hesitated. "But there's something else. We've decoded transmissions about human prisoners." Tom's stomach tightened. From the beginning, the Greys had been taking human captives, but no one knew what happened to them. "They have camps," Lisa continued, her voice lowering. "They're experimenting on humans. Trying to understand why we're so individually minded. They see it as a weakness but also a curiosity." Jack joined them, his uniform now adorned with general stars, a promotion forced by necessity after most senior military leaders died in the initial attacks. "We've located 3 camps," he said without preamble. "The largest is near the ruins of Denver. We're planning a rescue operation." Tom studied the tactical map. "The Denver facility is heavily guarded. They'll expect us to come from the ground. That's why we're not, Jack replied with a grim smile. We're going in from orbit. Using captured Grey ships and the command codes from the Washington raid, Jack had assembled a small space fleet. The mission would be humanity's first offensive operation beyond Earth's atmosphere. 3 days later, Tom found himself strapped into a Grey scout ship, modified with human controls. Lisa's voice came through his headset from the command center. Remember, the camp shields are controlled from the orbital platform. Take that out first, then the ground teams can move in. Tom looked at his squad, pilots and soldiers from a dozen different countries, united by a common enemy. Let's bring our people home. The scout ships launched, rising through the atmosphere toward a Grey orbital platform that controlled operations in the western United States. Its spider-like structure gleamed against the blackness of space. Approaching target, Tom announced. No signs they've detected us. The captured command codes worked perfectly. The Grey automated defenses registered the scout ships as friendly, allowing them to dock with the platform. Inside, however, was a different story. Grey security forces responded immediately to the human intrusion. Push forward. Tom shouted as energy weapons fire erupted around them. Team 2, circle around to the control center. The battle for the platform was fierce but brief. Humans had learned Grey tactics and vulnerabilities. Most importantly, they'd learned that Greys could not adapt quickly to unexpected situations, a limitation of their hive mind thinking. Control center secured, reported Anna, a former Ukrainian fighter pilot. Shutting down the Denver shield now. On the ground below, Jack led the assault on the camp itself. With the shields down, human forces breached the perimeter and fought their way inside. What they found horrified even the most battle-hardened soldiers. Thousands of humans kept in sterile cells, many subjected to bizarre experiments. Some had been connected to Grey technology, their minds partially linked to the hive. Get them all out, Jack ordered. Medical teams standing by. The rescue was successful, but the recovered captives brought disturbing news. The Greys weren't just studying humans, they were trying to adapt human individuality into their hive, creating a new kind of hybrid commander. They call it the Supreme Leader, explained Ben, one of the rescued scientists. They believe combining Grey hive efficiency with human adaptability will create the perfect commander for the reinforcement fleet. That night, as medical teams treated the rescued prisoners, Tom met with Jack and Lisa to plan their next move. We have 3 months before the main fleet arrives, Lisa said. The hybrid Supreme Leader is being created on their largest ship in lunar orbit. Jack studied the scans of the massive vessel. Then that's our target. We need to capture or kill the Supreme Leader before the fleet arrives. Tom looked at the images from the prison camp, the suffering etched on the faces of the rescued. We need to do more than that. We need to end this war. The plan they formulated was the most ambitious yet, a direct assault on the Grey command vessel in lunar orbit. Success would cripple the Grey leadership just as the reinforcement fleet arrived. As humanity prepared for its greatest battle, Tom couldn't help but feel a strange sense of pride. In the face of extinction, humans had not only survived, they had united as never before. 18 months after the Greys first darkened Earth's skies, humanity stood at a crossroads. Cities lay in ruins, billions were dead, but the human spirit remained unbroken. From the observation deck of the captured Grey orbital platform, Tom watched Earth below. Vast scars marked where the aliens had strip-mined entire regions, but patches of resistance-controlled territory showed as points of light in the darkness. Beautiful, isn't it? Lisa said, joining him at the viewport. Even wounded, it's still home. Tom nodded. And worth fighting for. The last 3 months had seen a desperate race. While Jack trained an international space force for the coming battle, Lisa had worked tirelessly to develop a weapon that could disrupt the Grey hive mind permanently. The final tests are complete, she said, holding up a small crystalline device. It works. This will sever their connection to the Supreme Leader. Without that link, they'll be confused, disorganized. But we need to get it close to the command ship, Tom reminded her. General Reed is waiting for us in the war room, Lisa said. The scout ships detected something entering the solar system. In the platform's central chamber, Jack stood before a holographic display showing the outer planets. His face, now bearing a scar from the Denver rescue, was grim. "They're here," he announced as Tom and Lisa entered. The reinforcement fleet just passed Neptune. Over 300 ships, including one that dwarfs anything we've seen before. The display zoomed in on a massive vessel at the fleet center. Nearly the size of Earth's moon, it pulsed with energy patterns that made even the hardened resistance fighters uneasy. "That's the Supreme Commander's ship," Jack continued. "According to our intelligence, the hybrid leader is aboard. 2 days until they reach Earth orbit." Tom studied the formation. "They'll link up with the Lunar Command ship first. That's our window." The plan called for a 3-pronged attack. Jack would lead the space battle, using their small fleet of captured and modified gray ships to engage the reinforcements. Ground forces worldwide would simultaneously attack remaining gray facilities on Earth. And Tom would lead a small strike team to deliver Lisa's hive mind disruptor directly to the Lunar Command ship. "One shot," Lisa reminded everyone. "The disruptor has enough power for one activation. It needs to be at the center of their command structure when it triggers." The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. Every human on Earth who could fight was armed and ready. It would be humanity's last stand. The day of battle dawned with an eerie calm. Tom's strike team, 12 of the best soldiers from around the world, prepared their equipment in silence. Each understood the stakes. "This is it," Jack said, joining them in the launch bay. His admiral's uniform, cobbled together from salvaged military pieces, looked out of place on the former army officer. "The fleet is in position. Ground forces are ready." He clasped Tom's shoulder. "Get that disruptor to the target. Everything depends on it." Tom nodded. "We'll get it done." Their modified gray scout ship departed the platform, accelerating toward lunar orbit where the command ship waited. Behind them, Earth's makeshift defense fleet moved into position to intercept the approaching armada. "Fleet contact in 30 minutes, Lisa reported from the platform's command center, her voice crackling through Tom's headset. "Good luck." The Lunar Command ship loomed ahead, its surface bristling with weapons. Using captured authentication codes, Tom's ship approached unchallenged, until the last moment. "They've locked weapons," the pilot shouted. "They know we're not gray." Energy beams lanced out, catching the edge of their ship. Systems flickered as they took evasive action. "Get us close enough to board," Tom ordered. "We only need one entry point." The pilot, a former Russian Air Force commander, performed maneuvers that should have been impossible in the small craft. They skimmed the command ship's surface, weapons fire barely missing them. "There." Tom pointed to a maintenance hatch. "Put us down." The landing was rough, but they made it. As the team equipped their space gear, Jack's voice came through their comms. "The main fleet has engaged. We're heavily outnumbered. You need to hurry." Through the viewport, Tom could see the battle unfolding near Earth. Gray ships poured through space while the smaller human fleet fought desperately. Flashes of light marked where ships died on both sides. "Let's move," Tom ordered his team. "We end this now." They breached the hatch and entered the gray command ship, the disruptor device secured in Tom's pack. Ahead lay the heart of the gray war machine, and humanity's last hope for survival. The interior of the gray command ship was a maze of organic-looking corridors that pulsed with an eerie blue light. Tom led his strike team deeper into the structure, following the energy signatures that Lisa had taught them to recognize. Command center should be 2 levels down, whispered Maria, the team's tech specialist. She studied a holographic map projected from a captured gray device. But security is getting heavier. They had already encountered 3 gray patrols. Each firefight left them with fewer team members. Of the 12 who boarded, only 7 remained. We can't afford to lose anyone else, Tom said, checking the disruptor device in his pack. It remained intact, its crystal structure glowing faintly. New plan. Jones, take Williams and Rodriguez. Create a diversion 2 corridors over. The rest of us will push through to the command center. As the diversion team moved out, Jack's strained voice came through Tom's earpiece. Status update? Almost at the target, Tom replied quietly. How's the space battle? A pause. Not good. We've lost half our fleet. The Supreme Leader's vessel just arrived in Earth orbit. It's firing something at the planet. Tom exchanged grim looks with his remaining team. Whatever weapon the Supreme Leader deployed, they had minutes, not hours, to stop it. The diversion worked. Explosions and weapons fired drew gray security forces away, allowing Tom's group to reach the massive doors of the central command chamber. Plant the charges, Tom ordered. The doors blew inward with a deafening roar. Tom led the charge into a vast spherical room. At its center floated a being unlike any gray they had encountered, larger, with an enlarged cranium and disturbingly human-like eyes. Around it, smaller grays worked at control stations. The Supreme Leader, Maria whispered. Before they could advance, energy barriers sprang up, separating the team. Tom found himself alone, facing the hybrid leader. The being regarded him with an expression that seemed almost curious. Human, it spoke, its voice a disturbing blend of mechanical and organic tones. You have fought well. Unexpected. Fascinating. Tom raised his weapon. We're ending this war. The Supreme Leader made a gesture that might have been dismissive. You cannot win. Your planet will be harvested. Your species studied. Then forgotten. We're not that easy to forget, Tom replied, reaching slowly for the disruptor. The hybrid smiled, a horrifying sight on its alien face. Your individuality. Your adaptability. These traits we now possess. It gestured to its altered form. Thanks to human subjects. The best of both species. Tom's hand closed around the disruptor. There's one thing you don't understand about humans. And what is that? We'd rather die free than live as slaves. Tom activated the disruptor and threw it directly at the Supreme Leader. The crystal device exploded in a pulse of energy that was felt rather than seen. The Supreme Leader convulsed, its connection to the hive suddenly severed. Throughout the ship, Greys clutched their enlarged heads, disoriented and confused. The energy barriers flickered and died. It's working. Maria shouted, rejoining Tom. The Supreme Leader recovered faster than expected, lunging toward Tom with unexpected speed. They crashed to the floor, struggling for control. Your device is impressive, the hybrid hissed. But I am more than just the hive now. Tom fought desperately, but the hybrid was stronger. As its hands closed around Tom's throat, the chamber shook violently. Through the viewports, Tom saw Jack's flagship ramming the side of the command ship, sacrificing itself to create a breach. The distraction was enough. Tom broke free, grabbed a fallen gray weapon, and fired. The Supreme Leader fell back, mortally wounded. Why? It asked, dark fluid leaking from its wound. Why resist inevitability? Tom stood over the dying hybrid. Because that's what humans do. As life faded from the Supreme Leader's eyes, it uttered final words that chilled Tom. Others will come. Worse than us. Running from them. The command ship began to break apart around them. Tom gathered his surviving team. We need to find an escape pod. Now. They fled through the disintegrating vessel, finally locating a gray shuttle bay. As they launched away from the command ship, they witnessed the battle turning. Gray vessels, cut off from Central Command, flew erratically or shut down entirely. General Reed? Tom called into his comm. Jack, do you copy? Only static answered. Jack's sacrifice had helped ensure the mission's success, but at the ultimate price. 3 days later, Tom stood on a hillside watching gray ships departing Earth's atmosphere. Without their leadership and hive connection, the aliens retreated, abandoning their invasion. Lisa joined him, her face showing both exhaustion and relief. Initial reports say they're leaving every sector. We did it, Tom. He nodded, remembering the Supreme Leader's final warning. For now. In the months that followed, humanity began the long process of rebuilding. Salvaged gray technology accelerated recovery efforts. Cities rose from ruins. A united Earth government formed, recognizing that old national divisions meant little after facing extinction together. 1 year after the final battle, Tom stood at a memorial ceremony. Jack's name headed a monument listing millions who had fallen in the war. Lisa, now leading Earth's new Defense Science Division, placed a wreath at its base. They're calling you a hero, she said afterward as they walked through a park being reclaimed from the devastation. Tom shook his head. I just did what was necessary. We all did. That night, Tom sat alone on his rebuilt farmhouse porch, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there were the worst enemies the Supreme Leader had mentioned. Humanity would need to be ready. But they would face that challenge together, forever changed by the war that almost ended everything, and instead began something new.